Hangout, where we come together for a period of time on Thursdays and hang out and do our hobbies together. So my name is Leona. I'm one of the editors at Game Trade Media. We have Dave, excuse me, my camera pointing is wrong. We have Dave and Gretchen, who are our hosts for Painting Happy Little Minis. And then we also today have some very special guests with us, John and Erin from Monster Fight Club. Woo! Hi guys, thanks for joining.
Thanks.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to our hobby. So you guys are from Monster Fight Club. Can you guys tell us a little bit about like who you are and what Monster Fight Club is all about?
Go for it, Erin.
Ooh, Erin.
John and I have been working together for ages and ages now. I think that's the official term. I started working with John after he founded Gale Force 9 in 2004. And actually have known Dave even more than that. We used to work at GW together. Yep. So after Gale Force 9, we started Monster Fight Club about a year and a half ago now. Halloween 2 years ago, and so did our first Kickstarter with the scenery. John joined you all about a year ago to talk about that, and we're now neck deep in Cyberpunk miniatures that we've just released, and we've got another Tentacle Town Kickstarter that's in the works, plus another Kickstarter launching soon. So yeah, just trying to make cool stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, it was really cool when John came into the studio and showed us the scenery that you guys were modeling. That was really awesome.
It's been really fun to see. We're starting all the US backers, or almost all US backers, and most international backers now have gotten their pledges. So that's been really fun to see. We're constantly getting emails and people able to set up with the new terrain, and just hearing from people that they're excited about it.
Oh, look, there's Dave. He even has highlighted on him.
Yep. See, and I have a piece of a tree in front of me anyway.
Oh yeah, nice.
There we go. A tree. You got this piece here. There we go.
That's actually one thing I've been hobbying up a bit recently. Is even though the stuff comes painted, it comes pre-painted, but it's fun to add more to it too. To add cobwebs on the trees, add moss to the tree trunks. It paints up nicely too. Scenery is a satisfying little side project when I'm bored of focusing my eyes.
Yeah, Dave, do you remember what you guys added to the scenery?
We did a lot of things. We added some of them we just added some washes. We added some extra, like some mosses and that kind of thing. We put in some tufts. There were some that we repainted as sort of icy outcroppings,
right?
Or sort of big chunks of ice with snow on top. We did all sorts of things with the trees. Added some extra dry brushing, some extra shading. We did some different colors. I think we messed around with some of the tree canopies as well. So yeah, we did.
You got the canopies, and you got the bushes, and you got all that other stuff. One of the things a lot of people don't know about these things is while they're painted up and stuff, they're incredibly durable. I'm gonna sit here and go.
Oh look.
I chuck them at people in the office when they tick me off. You just throw them across the room. But they're great. They hold up excellent. So you can drop them on the ground and put them back on. So you throw them in a box, put them back. You don't have to be that careful with them when you're sitting there playing with them. So they're really durable. A lot of what's fun is on Facebook and Instagram, people are posting the pictures and stuff. And now that everybody is stuck home, the amount of 5 and 6 year olds that have taken the trees and they're putting them with their Legos and they're putting them with their Playmobil people and everything else.
I would have done that as a child.
My 9-year-old forest set up in her room.
Yep, and we sell little. The one I like the most is we sell the bushes too, which is the same thing. They're just smaller. But then I saw an entire Barbie doll layout that was all set up, and they were using the treetops as the bushes for the Barbie dolls. So they had the dollhouse set up, and they were all put out. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Yeah,
it's fun. Like multi-use. You're like, oh, I didn't even know.
One of my favorite parts is the fallen trees. So they're basically it's flat on the bottom, but you've got that big tree ball, like the root ball there, which looks awesome. That's from the Broken Ground set.
I really like using the broken tree to span a water feature. You often see trees fall down off of a riverbank, so it makes for a nice, natural kind of impromptu bridge to cross a river. A logical place for models to be able to cross a river or a pond or something without having to put a man-made bridge on the table. So you can have a more forest scene with a river crossing the table and have a couple of down trees on the river without needing to have a road running to the table, which is fun.
That's awesome.
Good.
So is it true that Alliance is opening up on the 18th of this month?
Is it true? Yes, I believe.
Okay.
There
are three.
There we go.
Yes, there are
Sorry,
three.
I should have zoomed in on that. Dave, you want to show everybody?
Oh, sorry. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Nice.
Woo!
But we have, we have multiple containers over at the Alliance warehouse right now that, we keep getting phone calls. When can I get the stuff? We had a little bit that we had sent to us for the convention season beforehand.
Gotcha.
So we've been able to sell some of that online as we were going through. But then you have the stores calling up and say, well, we got our Kickstarter, it's sold out. We need more. And I'm like, well, call Alliance. They're not open. I'm like, I know. We're waiting.
Yeah. So, yes, people will be able to call and definitely talk to your friendly local game stores now, because they'll be able to have some Monster Fight Club scenery in there. Is there a word?
Everybody needs help right now.
Monster Fight Club scenery. Is that
Monster scenery?
Monster scenery. Okay.
Yeah, I was heard from a local store in Atlanta, where I'm based, that they pledged at the retailer level during the Kickstarter and got a big shipment in that they're selling now, and have almost sold through their entire Kickstarter pledge already. So I know they're looking forward to restocking.
Yeah, that's awesome. Real quick, I just want to say hi to people in our chat, or our viewers who are watching us. So, hello, Michael Harris. He is joining us. Dave Shrump is joining us as well, and Roger Moore, and also Justin Keys. And Roger says a special welcome to John and Erin. So yes,
Roger,
special guests today, which is great.
Well, Booster. Oh my god. So Aaron mentioned it before. I was working with Aaron at Games Workshop. Started working with him in 2002 when I moved to America. Before then, I was working for Games Workshop in Australia with Justin Keys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think I started working with Justin in 97, 98.
wow,
That is amazing. It's like worlds collide.
Back when Gretchen was 6.
Wait, 97? Yeah, 97, I was 6.
Oh. And Justin does say hi, Dave. So hello from him. So, Dave, what are you hoping to work on today?
Well, I think you've got you have a photo that I sent through.
Yes, let me get to that.
I thought you were I thought we'd done the setup.
I know. For some reason,
You jumped it. Okay.
I forgot to set up that one photo. So,
just to let everybody know, we didn't rehearse a single thing.
yeah.
I also spammed her with photos too. So
Yeah, I think that was what it was. All right, here's the photo.
Oh, yeah, sexy.
So these are some of the Monster Fight Club Cyberpunk Red minis that the guy sent through. These are all been primed and are sitting just over here. I want to put one of them in my hand, but so I thought we'd ask the chat which one I should be painting. So what do we have in that photo there, John or Aaron?
we've got from left to right, we've got a tech character right there with the big cutter over his shoulder. We've got a rocker up front with her guitar.
Oh, she has a guitar.
Yeah, she's got a double-necked guitar behind her. I think one of the photos that I sent over is I was working on, they come with the plain flat bases. I was doing some basing and detailing on the models that I had painted up. I think I got one of the pictures I sent over, I think is that model fully painted up and based up. And then behind her is Solo. She's got a shotgun over her shoulder and lots of little. Solos are kind of not exactly survivalists, but they go solo. They've got a lot of equipment and gear on them. And then on the right is a netrunner, all kitted out to be plugged in. In the Cyberpunk universe, the net has gone down due to a series of nuclear attacks. So plugging in is much more local, which is fun in the games. That you have to get to a location. You have to be kind of nearby what you're plugging into. It's not the global net has fallen.
Right.
So it makes netrunners kind of a little more active action characters. You're not net running from your couch in your apartment. You're out in the field doing it, which is fun.
Okay.
That's awesome. So we have a what were the types again? This guy was
That's a techie.
A techie.
A rocker boy.
A rocker.
Yep. A solo.
And a net runner.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
And then there are corporates. There are lawmen. There are nomads. There are nomads. Think Mad Max sort of thing.
Gotcha.
People are running around. Yeah, every walk of life that you can think of. It's kind of funny. Cyberpunk's neat. It's got like almost every genre that you can imagine. It's kind of all mixed together. So there are Yakuza, and there are all kinds of different things you can mix all in. So the miniature range we're working on is ridiculously expansive. Where we just broke the 100 figure mark, and we are moving forward from there. It's going to be big, and then something I haven't shown yet. I'm not even really sure because this is just a prototype work in progress. But we're working on vehicles that are going to go along with it too. So this is this one's fun because the doors are kind of like a door and they pop up on the side and they go through. And then the bottom side you can go on the inside and there'll be seats, and so you can paint the inside out. You put the top on. And they're all to scale with the figures and stuff, and you're going through everything else. When you put them, next to one of the figures, about right.
Okay.
Right now, we've released the first 10 of those figures are available in kind of a limited pre-release from our site, and then we'll continue to make more available as time goes on. But we were planning, everything's changed now. But we were planning on having a big pre-release launch at Adepticon and GaryCon, and that didn't happen. So instead, we took that, sold it online, like everybody else.
So the good part of all of this is that we're making all this stuff here in the U.S. So we're making our molds here, and we're running the machines and doing all of that in the States, which is great. But that doesn't help us with the packaging. So the stuff we're sending out now, it's in a nice little poly bag with a sticker on the outside. You don't have the pretty box and everything else, but it hasn't really seemed to stop anybody. So we've been happily surprised by how many people have jumped in early on to get the stuff. So we're probably going to do next week. We're going to announce 2 more box sets that we're going to release right away, just because they're all made. And we still don't have the packaging, so the people that want to order them direct can do that. And then as soon as distributors open back up, they're going to start soliciting for retail. And then probably in about a month or so, they'll start hitting stores.
That's really exciting. Erin, I have that photo of that you sent me. If you want to talk a little bit about that, it was this one, right?
Yeah, and so that's the solo. So it's always fun to base with other things. That kind of a combination of a little bit of kind of traditional textured paint. I think that's a Vallejo textured paint on the right, spread out, but cut the base with a little bit of plasticard, and just to kind of bisect the base and make it look a little bit more like a curve, and then added another little plastic tube behind that with some weathering and rust effects. I really like the what did I use? The Secret Weapons green black wash is a really nice grimy oil mixed with rain mixed with dirt sort of color is flowing out from the pipe behind her there.
Cool.
The flip to I think there's a rocker in there too. A rocker and the
was there?
The rocker we're talking about has a kind of blue base.
Here, let me Boop boop.
So while Leona's tracking that down, which model do you think I should paint from the tech, the rocker, the solo, or the netrunner? I know which one I've already started on, but
I like the rocker. I think you should do the rocker. That dual, like that guitar.
The rockers are fun too because it's getting away from just the military greens and blues, and you can paint. I've painted a few of those now. I've done one in a vibrant purple, and one in like a banana yellow outfit, and one in kind of black, shiny black, and they're rock stars. You can paint the hair whatever color, or paint the outfit whatever color.
Yeah, we went and painted up our masters and stuff for the boxes and whatnot. And then now that they're out in the world, it's just completely all over the place where the paint schemes are coming in. But they're great. They look wonderful.
Yeah.
So it didn't look like I had that photo. Sorry, Erin.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. I agree with well, it looks like Justin says paint the rocker. Looks like we're rocker fans. And then the netrunner
As they expecting.
specs on.
Well, one of the things I do want to paint up this the netrunner. I think this would be great. It's got some great sort of detail down the side of the legs that I want to paint as like orange stripes, and then do like a blue teal kind of bodysuit, and then have the mask be black, but then like a little sort of like a bright blue kind of glow
On the mask?
like as if it's coming from the other side of the mask and illuminating the face.
Oh.
Sort of thing. So you're just being inundated with visual, like bright light visual imagery.
Yeah, that's a fun model. And with Cyberpunk, I got my netrunner here as a combination of like a turquoise and magenta bodysuit.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, Erin. Did you want to show that a little bit?
See
See what we can.
what you can there.
Oh, yeah, there we go. We can see the turquoise. Yeah.
Focus.
Yeah, it's a kind of a turquoise bodysuit with magenta pads.
Yep.
Yeah, that looks great.
Cool.
I've really been enjoying making this.
Okay, rocker it is.
That's good. All right, so people, sorry, Clive. I would agree. I was with the Netrunner. I liked that one, the sci-fi, super sci-fi. And so, Gretchen, what are you working on today?
So I am just kind of doing some studies because after you mentioned the metal question of today, I was like, oh, you know what I have painted? The things I hate to paint. Because I finished my painting from last time. So,
Can we have it?
yeah. What?
Can we see your
yes.
Alfieri Guy Fieri?
My Guy Fieri, Alfieri. So those of you who were here last time know that I was painting a for a friend. So it's Guy Fieri. There you go. There he is. Who is painted as Alfieri, who is deals with all the sword stuff that I partake in. So there he is with his montante. I don't know if you can see it in this lighting. His shield says Flavor Town. So that's what.
Yeah, it does.
Going on.
Flavor Town.
But yeah, so that got complete. That is completed. My friend will be picking that up. He was very pleased. He, his wife misspoke and asked if the famous swords person and Guy Fieri were related, and that's how that was born. So he got it commissioned to hang in their house to remind her always.
Nice.
That's awesome. Mark says that looks great. They're very impressed.
Cool.
Your Guy Fieri.
Who doesn't need a Guy Fieri, Alfieri, Flavortown portrait in their house?
It's pretty great. And as Roger says, it looks great, Gretchen. I think you should sell like prints of that. It would be great.
There might be swords people interested. I don't know. I don't know if like people who like didn't understand the joke would want it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know. Anything with accurate.
I think you're just going to find people who like swords and food.
That's true. That is true. There's a lot of people. There's more swords people in the world than people think.
Yeah.
It's a small community.
And certainly there's a lot of people in the world who like food.
I remember recently that there's currently more working weaponsmiths now than there was 500 years ago. You know, same ditto for armorers, that like there's more people making plate mail now than there was 500 years ago because there's 7 million people now. But just, you know, maybe not as a percentage, but numerically, there's more armorers and weaponsmiths now than there ever has been.
I would believe that. I know several blacksmiths. I would definitely believe that. I'd be like,
So a fun scale of the world stat I heard recently.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like that.
Oh, we have a question from Kat. She asked, Dave, taking a break from crazy and doing a bunch of Telvera style work, it requires a lot of tiny straight line work. Any tips?
Oh, okay. How long are the lines, Kat? I guess that's the question. But if the lines are long, something you might be able to do is set up a piece of wood or a stick or something.
Oh, she says tiny.
Tiny?
Like tiny.
Oh, tiny straight line works? Oh, okay. Anyway, if it's long, set up some sort of stick where you can run your brush along a straight edge at sort of a consistent consistent motion, I guess, to
that's smart.
like long thin line. If you're talking about like tiny hazard stripes or something like that, again, it's just setting up your hands in a nice stable position and trying to move them as so make your movements as small as possible. So you don't want to be doing things like that because there's a lot of opportunity to move around and get your lines. If your lines are supposed to be lined up, you want to keep them fairly parallel, I guess. And then that's just keep your hand movements as minimal as possible. Something else, if I can jump in a little bit, I've been doing a lot of fine line work trying to do textured fabrics on a. I can't recommend highly enough a silly long liner brush for it. It's got a nice like inch long bristles. If you actually start the line a little bit off where you want it from. I was painting some like really really fine cross hatching to, like I said, to make kind of textured fabric, and it's almost like spray painting when you start the line a little bit further back from where you want it, and the liner brush does a great job of holding enough paint to get it on the entire line that you want while being flexible enough to stay straight. Because the bristles themselves are straight, I find it a lot easier to paint line, what do you know, with a liner brush than with a regular back brush. Cool.
So that's a specific brush that you can...
Yeah, this is by Recab. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Rekab. I've got a little Cornell one too. Just call it a liner. This is a 000 liner brush.
Yeah, when you watch the old school pinstripers on cars, they have like a 3-inch long micro thin brush, and it's almost, I don't know, if you get into like polish, or if you get into like Photoshop or something like that, and they have it's called the lazy trail, and you kind of drag it and you make a line and it kind of auto smooths it out. That really long brush will follow where you go. So if you're trying to do a long curve that kind of goes around, the longer it is and the slower you go, the more consistent that line will be.
And the long bristles kind of follow themselves. It's certainly not the case that gear is always the answer to painting questions, but in this case, I think liner brushes are really helpful.
Or you cheat with a template. That's what I do.
Hey, I just avoid trying to draw straight lines at all times.
That's good. But yeah, so those of you who are watching, if you guys have any mini painting questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and we will try and answer them the best to our abilities. But I had a question about the Cyberpunk miniatures. You said that there are going to be new sets coming out. What is the first set that is out? Was that the pictures?
Yeah, so the two pictures you had before were those were the ones from the Jumpstart kit. So in the role-playing game, there's that Jumpstart kit that came out late last year, and it has kind of 10 standees in that box set. And these are the miniatures that replace the standees that were on the inside. So all of the characters and stuff that were listed in there, they're all in the first box sets. And then the next two sets that we're going to put out, I think we're going to go with kind of a good guy, bad guy theme. So we're probably going to do like 5 of the cops, and then 5 of the what they call street scum, which are the kind of the hoodlums out in the world. And they're very flavorful. They've got a lot of really cool poses. They're wearing hoodies. They've got their weapons. They're very dynamic looking figures. Those two sets together, along with the Jumpstart ones, that's a really good start for getting into the range and being able to tell a lot of stories with it.
The Jumpstart sets, like John said, represent the characters that were in the our Talthorian Jumpstart role-playing set, and they also then represent all of the different character classes that are available.
Except for the corporate. There's no corporates in there.
That's right. Can we plan that as a separate set?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I guess the press too. There's lots more coming. But yeah, there's 2 Jumpstart sets. And then there's also, we had planned it as a convention special that we would only make available at conventions that we were attending. But since we're not attending any conventions, there's also a third kind of special set that's the Monster Team set that is 5 limited figures that are all based on characters from a live stream Cyberpunk game that was originally planned for GaryCon but ended up being virtual. But that's a really fun set. John, you took part in that game, so you can talk a little bit more about that.
I did. Yeah, I even got a figure made of me, the Too Tall character, which is
that's awesome.
Which is pretty neat looking. Yeah, so there's one of me, Matthew Lillard, from movie Hackers and many other things, but he actually reprised his role as a serial killer and came on and played, which was very cool. And you can see those streams on YouTube. If type Cyberpunk Red, and it should pop up on YouTube.
Yeah, the game was run by Mike Pondsmith, who's the actual creator of Cyberpunk. He GM'd it, so it's really fun to see that in action. You don't very often get to see a game run by the
creator
of the game.
Yeah, and Luke Gygax played, which was a lot of fun because we were going to go to GaryCon, so he's like, "Oh, I want to play," so we made him up as a pilot. He's an Army Reserve or Army National Guard, so we made him up a military style one, and then Nora, she was on there too. She played a really cool rocker boy, and and Owen Beast. We did the Beast model. The Beast model is really cool. The Beast is your atypical, think SEAL Team 6, for lack of a better word. So he's all dressed up in all of his gear with a riot shotgun and a big bayonet mounted to the bottom of it and everything else. So there's a lot of different stuff going on out there.
Yeah, one of the pictures you flashed up earlier was a Beast model that I painted up.
Was it?
It's a guy in kind of an army.
Yep, that's the one.
There you go.
Somehow I knew he was the Beast.
And what's hilarious? Well, it's not hilarious. It is scary how accurate that is to the real guy.
So yeah, if you watch the live stream, that's one of the guys who's playing in the game.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And yeah, so his character name for the Cyberpunk game is Paladin, but that is Paladin.
Cool.
So it's pretty cool.
But it's I've really been getting into. I'm enjoying older models. I think it's really fun. That was a fun one to paint. Models that don't look like 18-year-old soldiers, but look like a little more veteran fighters. I think are fun models to paint. They've got a lot of character.
And then what's also cool about that picture is the Kickstarter we've got coming up, less than 2 weeks from now, is all of the terrain and stuff you kind of see in there in the backdrop. We've kind of been teasing it in some of the images that we have out, but we have a ridiculous amount of ready to go stuff that's going to be kickstarted and then end up in retail after that.
And the terrain they're talking about it's a very interesting type of terrain. It's like a process that we haven't really seen before. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I sent over a couple of teaser images.
Oh yes.
In the email here. So there's a fog image and then there's kind of an overview image.
Let me pop them up.
What was that?
So all the terrain is made out of basically hardboard. So it's not cardboard. It is more like the sort of stuff that you would see like in a pegboard with the holes in it, without the holes. So it's very hard. It's very durable. And then it's all been, rendered, textured, and printed, basically UV printed on the outsides and insides of the entire setup. So every single one of those cubes, and you can see the figures on the ground there for reference. Some of these buildings are 4.5 foot tall, sitting on the table. And this is part of a 4x6 table we have set up in the office. And they are detailed inside and out. You can take the tops off, you can stack them, you can pop the windows out, you can put the windows back on. All of the corners can be connected and disconnected. The 4x6 table that we have laid up here, you can fold all of this up and fit it in like a 1x2x2 box. The whole thing folds down. So if you have a really small place to store things, this is a really great way to do it. And we've got fences, and you can see one of the trees in the background there, and we're doing some really cool lighting features, and we've got catwalks, and we've got fire escapes, and we've got repelling wires and all kinds of really fun things that it got out of hand when we started making doodads for this. It started with a cool little building idea, and then we're like, well, we need to be able to get out the windows, and then you make a window frame, and then you're like, oh, well, let's do a repelling rope. So we did that, and then, well, how are we going to hook the figure to it? Oh, we'll do this, and it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. Do you have that fog image too?
Yeah, I do. This one, right?
Yeah. So this one, you kind of look in the background there. Those chain link fences, they're basically plastic. So they come out, you paint them up, and they're wonderful. Then you see the warehouse in the background. That's a 4x6 mat where everything is rendered out and textured on. The bottom of it looks great. There's a really quick paint job up on one of the light posts that we do. But everything is scaled for our models. Stuff like this would be using it for the Walking Dead game, using it for like
Crisis Protocol.
Yeah, Crisis Protocol would be wonderful
right.
For this, because you're sitting there playing on height, and your characters are running up and down, and we've got vents and stuff, so you can jump from vent to vent on the outside of windows and air conditioning units and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of stuff I felt has been missing in the market for a long time, and once we started putting all this stuff up together, it's been a lot of fun building this project. It should have been done, back last November. And then once everything started slowing down and China kind of shut down, and we realized that, being beholden to the rest of the world so that we can run our business is kind of hard. So we bought a bunch of equipment and kind of did it right at the right time. And then we got shut down here. So everything showed up just before the shutdown happened. So we had a lot of time by myself locked in the warehouse to learn how all this stuff works and get it all up and running and start playing with some fun things. So
you really know.
So we're excited. We're excited to run with it.
John just sent me some of the samples of the chain link fences. As at the risk of sounding overly enthusiastic about our own product, just from a hobbyist point of view, these are the best miniature chain link fences I've ever seen. And I really like Chainlink Fences in games because they don't block line of sight but do block movement, which is a combination for scenery that you don't see so often. And I just think it makes you can create really interesting scenarios where you can shoot through a chain link fence, you can see through a chain link fence, but you cannot move easily through a chain link fence. And typically scenery blocks line of sight in shooting, not just one of them. And you have you have a quicksand template or something that blocks movement. But that's more of a template instead of a barrier. I'm really enjoying using these in games, and they just look great.
So Erin, I broke out the bob wire. So here's the one that I was messing around with today.
Oh.
So this is just
that's so cool.
Throwing so it'll all come out. The walls connect with each other, so this whole thing can be bent all the way around. We got a sliding gate that kind of goes back and forth that goes along with it. Throw a little paint on this, and it'll be really neat. The other idea we came up with about a month and a half ago. So over at Gale Force 9, we introduced the bob wire, and we were selling that over there. But one of the things that was interesting was, you always have all this packaging and stuff you're doing. I was thinking, what can you do for bob wire that would be really cool packaging? And I'm like, well, you're going to sell it on a spool. So we actually made terrain spools that look like the big wire spools that you'd see out in an industrial yard.
That's
It's coming on that. So when you get it, it's all wrapped up around it. So when you're done pulling off your bob wire and doing all your coils, now you got a cool little piece that you can paint up for scatter terrain too, it's just a cool use of the material.
Yeah, that's really good. That's excellent.
Yeah, that's really clever. I love
You have
that.
to reuse your packaging as terrain.
Yeah, exactly. But we put texture and stuff on it, so it doesn't look like a piece of packaging. It's a neat little doodad, and then you can stack them up and they look neat.
This might be a newbie question, but what material is that barbed wire made out of? Is it wire?
Yeah, it's basically a galvanized steel.
Okay.
And there is a wire wrapped here. So if you look at it real close, there actually really can't see it, but
it's okay.
The easiest thing I can do is let me grab something fast.
But
folks.
So here is my coiled bob wire.
Okay. Yeah.
All spread out, but it comes as a strand. So it's a single piece strand like this, and it's a big fat wire with a small wire wrapped around the outside of it. So what I do is when I get it, I take a 1/2-inch dowel and you start twisting it around the dowel. So when you sit here, and you got your piece, you coil it around.
Yep.
That's great.
And when you're done,
ta-da.
And it's hard to see on John's camera, but the wire itself is 2 wires twisted around each other, and the 2 wires are different sizes. So it gives a really nice scale barbed wire effect. And you could, what John just did with the dowel, you can do that with any wire that you have lying around your house. It looks pretty good, but the double wire really has a nice razor wire effect.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about that approach as well, using that kind of wire, is that as you said, it looks like razor wire, but it doesn't have anything that's going to catch.
yeah, it's not going to hurt you either.
Yeah, you can get some great brass etched barbed wire as well that looks just like barbed wire, but it also catches just like barbed wire. Which is why I've many cuts from that, but yeah, so that's why I love that particular style of barbed wire, because it looks like it from arm's length, but when you brush your sleeve across it, you're not going to pick up that piece of terrain and have it sail across the room. Yeah.
So back in the day, I was at a grand tournament, and my opponent who sat across from me, he had to bring six barriers to the game when he came, and he used actual thorn thistles and made this really cool chaosy looking barrier that was across the table and painted it all up. It looked amazing. Problem is, every time you reached around it, you got stabbed. There was blood on the table when it was, and every time someone would get stabbed, he'd go, "Blood for the blood god," and cheer, and it was just fine. But
That was like part of his
Part of his thing, yes.
intimidation.
So that was fun.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
All traditional ingredients.
We do have a question from the chat. Roger Moore said, any ideas how to make quick and easy dungeon floor texture for a draconic mini I am currently working on? I don't want to remove it and put it on a new base.
Okay. So I'm guessing it at the moment I'm guessing it's on a flat base, Roger?
Yeah.
If it is, you can do a couple of things. One is mix up a little bit of like green stuff or like a epoxy putty. Make little balls of it, and then flatten them down around the feet so that they're nice and thin, so they can look like cobblestones or flagstones, that kind of thing. Or you could get a thin sheet of plasticard or sheet styrene, something like this. This looks like a piece of paper, but it's actually plastic. And you can cut out your little flagstones from that and glue that down to the base around the model. That'd be the two ways that I'd approach that one.
If you start with a little bit thicker piece of plasticard, I really like this black stuff that's like 1/16 of an inch thick. It's slightly soft, so if you go outside with a hammer and pound on it with a hammer for a minute and just dent it up, then cut it up before you do what Dave just said, and before you cut it into little flagstones, you'll actually end up with a little bit more natural looking wobble and texture to the stones that'll dry brush up quickly.
Yep. I was just looking around my room for like I have some of that black as well.
But you really just lay this out on a driveway or the street and take a metal hammer and just smash it for a minute until it's all dented up, and it'll look like flagstones, cobblestones.
That's a great idea. Definitely cool.
That's great. Who would have known? Roger says, awesome. That's amazing.
I've got to get to post the photo of the finished piece.
Yes, into our miniature group. Also, Kat said, it's not a real game until there's blood on the table.
Nice one, Kat. One thing, just before we go too far away from the scenery that we're talking about, the stuff that's printed on the hardboard. So it's textured, and by textured, it's things like the bricks actually stand out a little bit from the wall.
Yeah, there's a little bit. It's also rendered in texture, so when you look at it, from any angle, it looks real until you get right up next to it. And when you put it sideways and you look at it and you run your hand across it, you can feel it.
Yeah,
which is pretty neat. And then all of the corner bits, they're all sculpted and injected molded, so they all come out with their textures and stuff. So there's two different corners right now. There's a more industrial looking one that we use for the warehouses and stuff, and then there's one that's you look at the brick buildings and you have kind of that stepped ones there, and all the ones that you're seeing there, that's how they come right out of the box. So that kind of brown plastic that's in there, they look fine the way they are, but if you want to dry brush it up, it'll make it pop a little bit more than the other way. And what's also fun is if you look closely at the windows, so all of the windows and stuff you see are there, but they're also all cut out except for 4 little tick marks on them. So you can pop the windows out when you're done, and it's tight enough that you can put them back in when you're finished. And you can take a window type from one building, mix and match. So you can have, the concrete window type, you can put into the brick and vice versa.
So like this window type can be.
Yeah. And there's a window type there, and then there's another window type down on the ground there on the warehouse in the background.
Yeah.
Yep. And then,
if you want a more desolate post-apocalyptic look, you just leave the windows out.
Oh yeah.
Have, blown out empty windows. Looks good too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And actually, right now we've got a art contest going on right now, which is fun. Where we basically put out one of the templates, and we got a bunch of art students, and actually whoever wants to enter can do it. And we're giving cash prizes for graffiti. We want people to go crazy and paint up the walls and do all that kind of stuff. So right now the contest is scheduled to be over on, I think, Saturday midnight.
Okay.
So there's still 2 more days, but if you go to monsterfightclub.com, on the front page, you'll see a link.
That's awesome.
Yep. And there's cash prizes.
So people interested in scenery, jump on that.
Absolutely.
Graffiti.
Yeah, and we're gonna start showcasing it. So we're in the process now of transferring those over now and making up some walls with the graffiti on it, so we can show some actual in the world graffiti as things are going through.
Will the winners be showcased in the on scenery that you end up distributing at all, or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the contest. So what we decided to do was we weren't trying to take ownership of the artwork during the contest. We said, everybody, you own your stuff. We just want the rights to be able to use the graffiti on our walls when we're going out in the Kickstarter, because these are great stretch goals and add-ons to make more of these available for different people. And the more variety you put on there, the better everything looks. And if you're trying to get a nice, depending on the graffiti you slap on these buildings, is it Jack the Ripper? Is it World War II? Is it modern days? Is it 100 years in the future Cyberpunk? It can be just about anything.
We've gotten some very cool sci-fi graffiti entries already. And like
robots and all kinds of stuff.
There's 3 different levels of prizes. There's prizes that we pick for the Monster Fight Club favorites. There's a fan favorite prize. So we'll post all the submissions in a gallery on our website. And the one who gets the most votes will get one of the larger cash prizes. And then anybody whose scenery is selected to actually appear on a printed building will get a cash prize as well.
Yep.
That's amazing. I love that. So Dave, you're going to have to bring out your graffiti skills.
Oh, no, my graffiti skills are non-existent. My ability to go to Google image search and find some fantastic graffiti right up there.
It works amazingly well, except it says right in there it has to be original.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I'm good at that too. Some of the first ones we did, that's how I was mocking some stuff up. The first graffiti we had was we grabbed some Sharpies and we're just having fun and messing around on it. So we have some talented people that work here way better than me. Mine looked like a kid with a crayon. It was kind of
That's what mine looked like. Yeah.
But then you got people that know what they're doing. You're like, wow, that looks really cool. So
I think that's a cool idea. Definitely a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it is, but adding the graffiti on really just kind of it makes it come to life. And it's neat with the full color printed walls. You just can't do that easily yourself. I can't, at least. I mean, somebody who's really, really airbrush talented could maybe graffiti their entire miniature city, but it lets you get a level of detail in the buildings. It's kind of impossible otherwise.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, as you said, it really adds to the environment and the world. So.
But if you want to turn the camera on again real quick. So I have a piece over here where I was kind of messing around with. So here's one of the smaller wall sections that kind of comes printed up the way it is.
Oh, nice.
And if you turn it, you can kind of see the light, popping a little bit to the windows.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a cut, but they all kind of sit in place. But then you're like, you want them out. You just pop them. And then there's also some that are half windows, so you can pop the half windows back in. And then we've got, of course, your blown up stuff as you're going through. So you got, let's see, rebel things. And then the clips are super easy. So it comes with these clips. And all you're going to do is you're just going to take your piece and stick it in the side. You're going to take this and put it in the side. And then there is floor sections that clip from the inside of the window over. That gives you stackable places. And then, some of the ones we have in the back, these things go up, 15 stories, 16 stories. So you can build an entire building and then blow out the back side of it. So the entire building from the inside, from one side, is completely playable. So you can get inside, play it. And then we've got on the floors inside of all the buildings, because they're all, printed floors and stuff as well. There are holes where you can pop out, and then we got staircases that snap right into them. And the stairs are cool. We spaced them out enough so you can take models and put them between the treads. So you can actually play on the stairs as they're starting to go up. And then the fire escape that goes on the outside of the building, they all clip into the windows. So there's no right or wrong way. It's like a giant play set. And you build it and put it together any way you want. But you can build a really enormous table in a relatively short amount of time. And when you're finished with it, when you're done, you just put it away.
I mean, John says relatively short, like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really fast to put together.
That's amazing. I love that because there is so much fantasy scenery that's out there for different RPGs, but it's exciting to see something that's a bit more like cityscape based, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we knew a year ago when we were doing our rocks and hills and trees, we knew that cities would be the next thing we would want to do. I mean, those are the two main foundations of a tabletop scenery. You're either in the city or you're not, basically. And you can take game specific scenery and add it to our stuff. You have to set the scene. That looks great. But city fighting and and also then the natural world pretty much covers a lot of your bases.
Yeah, and we're being really careful that anything you do in the one set works with the other one. So everything that is in the the trees and the bridges and everything that we just did in the last Kickstarter, and then now is going to retail. Those catwalks and barricades look amazingly cool with this. So if you take that kind of brick tone that we had, and also you take two brick sides, and then you take the warehouse sides, put them down the other side, which looks like a really cool building, blow out most of the windows, put a ruined section on the inside, put in a couple of broken out floors, put it on your desert map, and then put dead trees and stuff all over the place. You have this very cool post-apocalyptic looking thing.
Yep.
That's all
having trees growing up through the middle of it.
Exactly. Whether you go and Fallout, everything else, and then we're gonna have vines and stuff coming out of the windows and hidden compartments, and we definitely got out of hand when we started.
Just playing a game where I took one of our building cubes, took the roof off, but left all four walls intact, and then filled the middle of the building with trees. So it was this really fun little square forest. So everything inside the building counted as a forest. And it looked great. It looked like a building where the roof had fallen in and trees had grown up, inside the building. It reminded me a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn or something like that, where you have a grown, fallen civilization. It was a really neat looking table.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Earlier, Kat had said that when you talked about you didn't know when to stop, she says, "Isn't the way it always is? You don't know when to stop building and adding on, or do we really want to stop?"
I would say that's one of my biggest shortfalls here is my deadlines seem to keep going because, we'll just add one more thing to it. We'll add one more thing to it. Next thing you know, 3 months have gone by and it's gotten 5 times bigger than the original brief. And you're like, no, maybe we really should just focus and get out the window.
I also love the clipping sides. I had recently, we did a ruined farmhouse we painted on the show.
Yes.
Or 2 back, and I had to glue all those sides, and so it's really nice to have sides that just it kind of made me my heart. I was like, oh, pop, little clickers.
and these things are amazingly durable. I mean, when you build a solid cube that goes all the way around and you start stacking stuff up, for fun, I took a 45-pound weight, weightlifting, put it on top. It's fine.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
We don't all, have unlimited storage space either. So a building that you can play on for an evening and then flat pack, put away, take apart and put away back into your closet is really nice. Because I don't have a 6 by 4 foot table set up in my house all the time. I need to take it out. I need to take it out and set it up and play on it and then put it away.
Right.
I just take over the dining room table and move everything there.
You just eat on the
There is so much on this table right now. I'm so glad you can't see it.
Yeah, a fully packed 3 foot by 3 foot table, with buildings that are 2 and 3 feet high all the way around, when packed down, could fit in a 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot box.
Yeah,
that's very exciting for us people who have lots of things.
I like to pretend I would be so organized as to pack everything back in its nice, neat little box.
Me too. I would totally pretend that I'd be organized like that.
We're selling hopes and dreams. We're selling hopes and dreams.
I would buy it and I would feel so good about myself. New leaf, new me, new situation. And then it would sit there.
But then you have the option. See? You have
Exactly. It's like when I buy office supplies. I will buy office supplies. I will not use it, but I will buy it because it makes me feel organized.
Well, since everything doesn't require painting, like it's just pretty well ready to go. I know I have already been using our trees and stuff more than a lot of other scenery that I bought over the years that is currently sitting on the sprue. So
yeah,
that's the intention that I end up with. Is a lot of stuff is still on the sprue, unpainted. So I am feeling appreciative of not having to paint this scenery.
That's good.
We've talked about that before. That I love painting miniatures. There's not much I enjoy more with my free time, but painting scenery feels a little bit more like a chore to me. So I'm appreciating the pre-game.
Yeah, there's something really nice about that already being done.
One of the cool things as well that you can do is if you have like 90% of what you want there already done, ready to go, you can actually spend time on creating a feature piece of scenery. So for Cyberpunk, like one of the most fantastic things I think for Cyberpunk would be trash piles, and not just like a little pile of trash, like a couple of trash bags or something like that, but something that's like, I don't know, 8-10 inches across, this big mound of trash bags. Things like that you'd see on the streets in like Blade Runner. You have the time to go and do that because you don't have to do all the rest. It's already done for you. So I think it's cool. I think it works. It's something that works for everybody.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So one of the sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I was gonna say I only mentioned trash piles because I definitely want to do that. Totally.
So one of the things that we like to do on our show is we're connected to our Facebook group, which is the Painting Happy Little Minis Facebook group online, which you can join and share your pictures and miniatures and stuff like that. And recently, this past week, I asked people what kind of techniques that they're working on and what they're hoping to work on. And a lot of people commented about non-metallic metals and how to paint them on miniatures. People talked about object source lighting and stuff like that, but actually quite a few of them were all about non-metallic metals. So I kind of wanted to open that up to the people in the group and then also people in the chat. What are your experiences in painting non-metallic metals? And do you have any tips or things like that for painters?
Who's going to talk first?
All right, fine. I'll go first because I have the least amount of actual miniatures at my disposal right now. So when it comes to metallics, and as far as like 2D painting, the most important things that I think of when I need to accomplish metallics are contrast and, up to 3 things: contrast, light source, and reference. Metallics are difficult. I don't like painting them. I end up painting them more than I want to. So while everyone else was talking, I got out the watercolors and did some little bits. So this here, that is with a reference. I looked on Pinterest real quick. I found a reference. There was light source. I made it high contrast. It's better with actual lighting, but whatever. Down here, that's with no reference. That's going off of my brain space. My brain space sucks at making metallics. And then here is combining my reference with a illustration I already had lying about of armor. So I find that the higher contrast you go, the more metallic it's going to look, the shinier, the newer it's going to look. The less contrast you go, the less shiny and really not being afraid of that contrast. Especially with miniatures, I feel like, because you're going to be looking from farther away. So if you think you have enough contrast, you probably don't. There needs to be more, always. And then when it comes to references, references aren't cheating. References are telling you what you need to paint. I know a lot of people who are scared of references when it comes to miniatures or actually 2D drawing or illustration or whatever. They're gonna, we post up, I think, do we still have the picture of the miniature that has the reflection in it?
We do. Just give me 1 second. Here we go. This guy.
That guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I guarantee you he did not just do that from his brain. He has looked at masks before. He has looked at helms. He's looked at how the texture warps, and then he applied that knowledge to that miniature.
Yep.
With lots and lots and lots of practice to make it look that good. Caveat, there's no cheat codes. You just have to practice.
Yep.
But yeah, you can see just how much contrast between that bit of either castle or forest down at the bottom of that helm up to the bit where the sun hits the rounded portion. And actually, I sent a picture to Leona to show you guys how accurate he is. I have a picture of him wearing that helm. Because it exists like that. So like you can see how much he's actually paid attention to where the highlights and the shadows would be on that metal and how it would warp.
Yep. Can we have a Leona, can we have a look at the second photo that Gretchen sent you? The
reflection with the rapier?
Or the rapier, yeah. If you can zoom in on the pommel.
That pretty good?
You're almost there. We go.
Sorry, I realized you said the pommel, and I was like, "That's not the pommel."
Chris and I thought, oh no, did I not? I've used the jargon.
Yeah, that's a great shot for contrast right there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. On that that sphere, you've got that the high point of the light at the top. You've got which is showing white in the photo, and down to the black at the bottom. All in that tiny space, but at the same time, it's reflecting the pink of Gretchen's dress.
Well, in that one, it's a hoodie. Yeah, that's at club. I was actually sword fighting then.
You could have been doing it in that sundress, I'm sure. But you're getting that reflection, and I think anytime you see spheres are my favorite thing to look at as a metallic, having a metallic sphere and looking at the reflections in it, because you do immediately get that high contrast from white to black and everything in between. So I think it's very cool there.
It's very, very hard to imagine where the reflections are going to lie, specifically for miniatures. I would really recommend finding a good video tutorial online. Buy the exact same miniature that they're using in the tutorial and try to follow along. It's hard to watch somebody else's tutorial and translate where the reflections should be on a different miniature even. But I did that once and bought years ago the Bretonian Knight that was being used in the tutorial. It just was really, really helpful to actually be able to follow along on the same model so that I could really get a little more of a sense of where those highlights and reflections and shadows would fall on the same model that I was seeing in the tutorial. I felt like that was a really useful exercise to follow along with the same miniature of a tutorial.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think you got it right there. I had never thought of the idea of using the same model that's in a tutorial, but I like that idea. It's definitely very cool. But
I did that once and realized I'm not going to do non-metallic metals.
Yep.
It's not like my miniature painting has a game at the end of the tunnel, and I've seen amazing golden trees in person that have non-metallic metals that are just mind-blowing. But you can't paint 100 models in a year that way.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say you can't. I can't.
I like that miniatures let me cheat and use metallic paint. Paintings don't always do that because it just looks weird because it's not all three-dimensional. Whereas miniatures, I can just be like, oh, it's silver now. And because it's metallic and it's on a curved surface, it blends in.
Yeah. I do feel like doing that once, painting literally one model as well as I could with non-metallic metals, taught me some really valuable lessons that have carried over towards painting true metallic metals. That these days I often shade my true metallic metals with black, with a pure black, so to get that high contrast. And I really like Scale 75 makes what they call a brilliant white that's part of their fluorescent range. It's basically a metallic white, and I'll often take that and use that to make some of those pinpoint reflections to goose the contrast even a little bit more than what you get from a bright silver paint.
Right.
To actually putting pure black shadows and pure white highlights on an actual metallic. So even if you're not going to paint non-metallic metals all the time, I still think there's some valuable lessons there that you can apply to regular metallic painting too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I'm going to suggest here as well is like I haven't done a lot of non-metallic metals because I prefer the look of metallics on miniatures. And I've done quite a bit of work on true metallic metals, which is kind of it's a weird cycle. I think one of the things that we haven't done is we haven't explained what non-metallic metals is. Hopefully most people know what it is, but it's basically when you use non-metallic colors to paint metallic things, things that are supposed to look metallic. So painting silvers with shades of gray from black through to white, painting golds with yellows and oranges and browns and purples, that kind of thing. True metallic metals is replicating that same those same nuances that you would get in a non-metallic metal, a good non-metallic metal paint job, and using metallic paints to replicate that. Before I forget, because my mind was just about to wander, I would recommend that, as well as looking at reference things like just as Gretchen was saying, look at photos of helmets or photos of whatever it might happen to be. Look at the artwork of some of the great masters of painting. Somebody that I always think of when I think of this higher level of non-metallic metal work is Rembrandt. Primarily because his use of contrast is spectacular. So anytime that he's approaching any sort of metallics, you've got that sort of same spectacular level of contrast through the piece. But yeah, definitely take a look at some of the old masters of painting and see how you can work on ways to apply that to your miniatures.
That's smart. The old masters of yore.
For a second there, I thought everybody was just had become bored and left, but it was just the screen had frozen.
Sorry, yeah, it did. Chris had a question earlier when we were talking about the cyberpunk terrain. Do you guys have terminals and other cyberpunk accessories as well?
We do. We have terminals and trash piles and dumpsters and garbage cans and wires that run up the sides of the buildings. We have almost an entire refinery put together that is essentially tubing with textures and stuff on the tubing, along with the couplers that put the whole thing together that break at 90 and 45s and different stuff. And then we have the catwalks that plug onto it. Yeah, we've got a lot of different stuff coming.
If y'all roll through our Instagram feed, you can see, not necessarily right this second, but a lot of the stuff that's in those pictures will be in the upcoming Kickstarter. Those tire piles that John just mentioned, there's a lot coming.
That's exciting. Lots of accessories for someone's Cyberpunk. Also, someone on Facebook had said they actually use fingernail polish, and when that's dry, it's almost a mirror. So
Ooh, I've seen fingernail polish like
to
that.
create a little reflection, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of a cheap way. Also, Chris says you should take a light class to understand lighting and reflection. Sometimes that is helpful. Specifically, Dave. Dave, do you have a light class?
I have a metallics class, Liber Metallica, that I've run at Adepticon a couple of times.
Oh.
And Chris, I think Chris got in on one of those. But yeah, we talked a lot about spheres. We talked about contrast and how you can, if you want to do polished steel, like in that the helmets that we saw, or the pommel of the sword. The example picture that I use for that is the bean in Chicago.
Oh, right.
The big sculpture that is just completely mirror finish, the chrome finish. So if you want to do chrome or highly polished steel, look at the ways you can do that, all the way through to cast iron and how that looks and how that reflects, and then comparing that to things like gold or brass or bronze.
So Dave, on a gold example, I sent you a link a couple seconds ago.
Yes.
To Leona. I want you to just take a look at this and give me your thoughts.
This one?
Yep.
Here we go. Do you see it?
I do see it.
I think that's a pretty good example.
Yeah, I think it is a good example. One of the things, so gold isn't as reflective as highly polished steel. So you're not going to, I guess with highly polished steel, when we're talking about the helmets, you're going to have a lot more light. It's going to be sort of picking up a lot more, you're going to be getting a lot more reflections. And if you're outside, you get a lot more sunlight and sky to sort of be reflected in it. Gold tends to be more dull. Very generally don't see polished gold anywhere, so you're going to get generally get a larger section. If we're talking about just flip back to me for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a spectrum between dark and light. Okay, so if you're doing something like polished silver, you can generally get your light part of the spectrum. Which one was light? This one? Okay. Your light part of the spectrum is going to be sort of greater than the darker part generally, because if you're outside, you've got lots of sky to reflect and then just a little bit of earth around the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's typically what you'd see. When you're talking about something like cast iron, or like a cast iron skillet, for example, you're going to have a lot of the dark and only a little bit of light reflected. Something like gold, you'll see a little bit of dark and a little bit of light and quite a lot of your mid-tone, I guess, that you're using for it. So if we can go back to the face mask, you can see that it has small amounts of that highlight.
Yeah, like
so there's little really fine sort of bits where it's catching on the edges there. I think if I was to work on this, I'd knock so you've got the shadows there, which do look very cool. I'd probably knock those back a little bit, as in I wouldn't make those darker brown areas as large as they are. I would have more of that mid-tone
like
yellow.
this tone right here.
Yeah, so I'd probably put a little bit more yellow in that front plate there. But one of the things I do love about it is the depth of the contrast in it. So you've got from those very light high points down to the deeper browns.
I feel like this is a good example of that, where it's like really light here and then it goes all the way back down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I like about it is, first glance, you're like, oh, metal. And that's what you're going for.
True.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the toughest part is making sure that when you're finished that it reads as metal.
I think the best way to hit that mark is paying attention to the shape of your highlights on your metal.
Yep.
I think what makes that really successful with this one is if you look underneath of the eye and on those edges, it's the correct shape for what you would see there. It has, the whooshy shape. I don't.
The curve. Yeah.
Rather than having.
Zoom in on that part.
Can I zoom in?
Is that possible?
Yes.
Enhance.
It's going to be a little bit,
Enhance.
But rather than dots or circles or straight lines, which you can get with harsh metally shape and something that maybe a beginner painter might instinctively go for, it's softer and it's in tune to the curvature that you would see.
Yeah, you look down the side of a car, and if there's a dent, it's obvious only because of the color shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And something, especially if you've been painting for a long time, something that's very strange about painting non-metallic metals, and this is a good example of that, is that the highlights fall almost in the opposite place that you expect them to. If you were painting that headdress as if it was made out of bone, the parts that were, and you imagine a light source above it, the parts that were closest to the light source, the top of the helmet, the top of the T, would all be the lightest, and then they would get darker as the light falls down the non-reflective surface. But in a reflective surface, when the light hits a vertical surface, it reflects off, hits the other surface that's below it, and then bounces up into your eye. So, on that, and this is a good example of that, that darkness on the back kind of coggy part of the headdress,
the
darker colors, if you were painting that to be a non-reflective bone, that would definitely not be the darkest part of the model. Because it's a curved reflective surface, the light never goes from that part of the model to your eye. It would be bounced off there, hit the bottom, and then come up. But you end up in a little bit of like a bizarro world of highlighting, where you often are putting the highlights in exactly the opposite place of where you would put them on a non-reflective surface.
Yeah. So I think what we're saying is that it can be tough.
A lot of practice.
A lot of practice, a lot of looking up different things, and using the resources you have available to you.
Yeah.
Chris from the chat also has a good point. There's a big difference between rubbed metals, like a sculpture that people interact and rub regularly, and polished metals as well.
Yeah.
Or as opposed to like raw metal.
Yeah.
Raw metal!
Dude.
Next episode, metal.
You bang the drum of you do what's right for you. I think it's really worth trying it, but I think sometimes when you spend a lot of time, especially as we are these days, reading painting forums and looking at pictures of other people's work, you can almost get a sense of all the really good models use non-metallic metal. So that's what I should be doing. And it's not a better or worse. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
I talk to digital sculptors almost every single day. And when you have a new person comes in, it's like, oh, what software should I be using? And the answer is, there's 100 different hamburgers, whatever one drives the nail in. So you do what works for you and gets the effect that you're going for, and just run with it.
Yeah. That's good.
Cool. Well, I have I gotta take a photo of. I might take a couple of photos, Leona, and just send them to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Don't look away, everybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we're actually kind of coming to the close of our show. So I wanted to. I know. We've been out for about an hour and a half, and then we end up scurrying away to do our own hobbies by ourselves. But I wanted to open up to John and Erin again. What are some of the, we have Cyberpunk that's on the horizon, or very, we can see it type of thing. Are there other projects that Monster Fight Club is able to talk about, or things like that, that you guys are working on currently?
Sure.
There's definitely other projects we're working on. I'm thinking through that we can talk about.
Okay.
I am too.
Or if you want to just highlight a couple more things in Cyberpunk that will be.
Well, one thing just to to say that the Cyberpunk miniatures that Dave's painting, those are available right now. Like you can log on to our website. We started releasing those. So that's not just on the horizon, but those are actually available now. And what's on the horizon for Cyberpunk is just a lot more figures, a lot more sculpts. We've talked about the Kickstarter, the building Kickstarter that's going to launch in the next few weeks. So that's the next, the big exciting thing there. And we've got a couple of new games in the works. One miniatures game, another board game. We've got a lot more scenery stuff, a lot more scenery ideas that'll be coming out in the future. One thing we didn't talk about with our upcoming scenery is the neoprene game mats we're doing. We've got really good feedback on the first one we did. I don't think we sent you a picture of this, but we'll have some pictures online soon. I really, really like the new City Streets mat that we've done that will be paired with the new building Kickstarter. It has both some asphalt streets and like concrete pads where the buildings look good on, but it also has areas of like overgrown grass and dirt and parking lots. And it's a very flexible mat that I really have been enjoying playing on. Like our scenery, we've kind of tried to make stuff that's era agnostic, where it could be World War II, it could be modern times, it could be Cyberpunk, it could be in the grimdark future. So stuff that's not settled in time, but is flexible and easy to play on.
How big is that map?
Comes in 3 sizes. There's a 6 by 4 foot size, the full meal. There's a 3 by 3 foot size and a 22 by 30 inch size for small skirmish games.
Yeah.
Nice.
And all of our mats are double sided. So on the back side of the city one, there's one more. It's more tarmacy. So the whole thing is more road. So that when you put the buildings down, and there are also, you don't have to get the sidewalk sets, but you can that go along with it. So now you between a building and the sidewalk pad that goes with it. Now your roads are wherever you want because everything that's underneath the city is a road. So now just line them up in the correct spot. You have diagonal roads, straight roads, everything else. And that was something we were trying to do. Whether you're doing that or you're going to do a runway or whatever you're trying to do, you can mix and match a lot of different things and put all that together. So we're excited about that one too. The other big question we keep having from different people, and I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but a lot of people are saying that you're making all these figures. Do you really need that many figures, just for an RPG? No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
So there's something else that's coming too that's going to need lots of miniatures. So I just kind of wanted to say that out loud because there is a reason we're making vehicles and everything else.
Right.
This is a genre that I've been into for, back in the 90s when it came out, dating myself. And this is something I really want to be a cornerstone to what Monster Fight Club does with Altair and moving forward. Yeah.
I was going to say, we don't need 100 miniatures. We want 100 miniatures. We want 200 miniatures.
Yes, we want 500 miniatures.
500 miniatures.
We want dead people. We want people locked up. We want people being, I won't go into it, but there's a lot of really cool stuff.
There's a lot of
That's
things.
really exciting.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, I have the miniature that you have worked on.
Okay.
Madame Rocker.
You were so
Dr.
good
Boy.
and so fast, Dave. I'm jealous.
One of the things that I really love about these minis is that they've got so much detail on them, so much crisp detail. Unfortunately, my phone camera is not up to, nor my lighting situation up to taking a good shot of it. But there's so much detail in them that contrast paints just work beautifully over it. So, this isn't all contrast paint. It's a lot of it. So the yellow is Ayandan yellow. The hair, the belt, and the boots, because I thought it'd be nice to have everything sort of bookended like that.
I like that.
Volupus pink. Actually, if you have got the second shot there, Leona, I think you can probably see the green a little bit better on the guitar. Oh,
there we go.
yeah. As I said about my my camera not picking it up well enough, but there's a bit more green on it than in real life. But yeah, that was just a thin down warp lightning contrast paint over the yellow. For the stockings, or the sort of the one fishnet stocking on her right leg, and the other one sort of pushed down around the top of her boot. That was just done with Vallejo dark gray, and then mixing in some of the P3 Rin flesh to give it more of a translucent look. What else? Then I think I just the pants. Her shorts there are Vallejo dark Prussian blue, highlighted up with GW's layer paint Thunderhawk blue. So those two colors together are my favorite go-to for denim. But yeah, and then for the for top, I just used so the shading is Thunderhawk blue with a little bit of white mixed in, and then white for highlights. So
very good.
Again, there's the right amount of texture on them to make them work just perfectly with contrast paints. So
I'll throw up I've got a picture of a few miniatures that I painted probably with 80% contrast paints.
Yep.
I'll put that up in the Happy Little Minis Facebook group.
That'd be awesome.
I'm already a member of that, so I'll throw that up after.
Yeah,
Cool.
that would be great. Awesome. Yep. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. And thank you for people in the chat who have been commenting and talking to us. By the way, I want to shout out Justin. He says, "Love it, Dave."
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate you hanging around for the show.
Yeah.
Justin is in Australia.
Gotcha.
So he's
Who knows what time it is?
It's probably like 6 in the morning now.
Nice.
Really early. Wow.
Yeah.
You're relaxing to listen to with your coffee.
Yeah. There you go.
Cool.
So when is the Kickstarter going live for Cyberpunk? Is there an official date for that? Or yeah.
Well, Cyberpunk is probably going to go to stores.
Oh, okay. Great. Awesome.
And the Kickstarter will be for the terrain.
Yeah. Okay. So with the terrain, when does that?
We're going to announce that this weekend when it's going to happen. So we're still locking down the date.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and just kind of talking about the Cyberpunk world that you guys are building. It's really exciting. Super fun to, as you said, something that's very new, I think, and unique in the RPG space right now. To have miniatures and terrain that really pairs well with sort of a sci-fi punk world, which I'm really excited for. Also, Justin said it's 5:30 a.m.
I was close.
Why?
5:30, 6:30. You never know.
I'm so glad that you're with us, but not do this show at that early. I would be like, Leona.
Yeah, no, we don't do it there. So those of you who are watching, we do have a Facebook group, Painting Happy Little Minis, where you can join and post pictures and miniatures that you've been working on or any completed projects. And it's just a great space to ask questions as well and talk about different techniques and things like that, some of which we try and touch on our show today. Dave, was there something you had wanted to mention?
Just one last thing. We kind of mentioned this a little bit at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
As John mentioned, Alliance are reopening. They'll be shipping as of next Monday, I believe, the 18th of May. A lot of states across the United States are going into sort of phase 1 of their reopening. So part of Alliance's sort of return, Alliance and Diamond distributors as well, is the Back the Comeback campaign. So if you wanted to pick up a snazzy T-shirt like this, it becomes snazzier if I move it. So head to backthecomeback.com. There'll be information about what Alliance and Diamond are doing. You'll be able to buy a T-shirt. Proceeds go to charities that are set up to help basically small businesses, friendly local game stores, friendly local comic stores. And later in the year, I think it's July, there is going to be an auction that's being run by Jeppy Family Enterprises that will include some fantastic collectibles from Steve Jeppy's collection. And there'll be other things like I'm going to be donating a painted miniature or two. And there's a few other friends of mine who are gold winners who will also be contributing painted miniatures. So keep an eye out for that.
Very exciting. Yes.
So
thank you, Dave.
comeback.com.
Yeah, that's at backthecomeback.com, and all the info there that you need will be there, which is really exciting. So we'll probably talk about that next week as well.
No doubt.
All right. And that's basically the show. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you people in the chat for saying hi, and we will see you all next Thursday.